Hi! So I first got into the Slate VSX headphone system about a year ago, but never really made a dedicated video about it because, well, there were so many already. However, around the same time, they were teasing a very special release which was coming up in 2025. So I figured I'd wait with the video until that release to share my own experiences with this system and have a look at the brand new features. And lo and behold, last week, after, as I understand it, a bit of a delay, they finally released Slate VSX 5.0. So let's have a look at that. Let's go! Now, if you're new to VSX, you may be wondering what exactly is the Slate Audio VSX headphone mixing system. And it is of course a system that enables you to do your mixes on headphones. And when you buy it, it consists of, well, first of all, a pair of headphones, these over here. To me, they are pretty sturdy, although most of it is plastic, except for the headband over here. And I've had them for, well, over a year now, but I'm not really seeing any obvious damage or wear or tear. So I assume they can last quite a long time. Now, the second part of the system is a plugin, which you can see over here. And that plugin, in combination with the headphones, basically allows you to simulate certain studio rooms. For example, they have a lot of different studios and listening environments, even boom boxes, other headphones, a club, car systems. And if you go into a certain studio, then you can see you even have the choice of listening to the near field monitors in there, the mid field monitors or the far field monitors. And the idea, of course, is that while listening on those headphones, you actually get the sound experience of being in that studio, listening to those particular speakers that you selected in that studio. Now, in general, the opinion on VSX has been quite favorable. You will find a lot of reviews and YouTube videos that will tell you that when you make mixes on these headphones, they translate quite well to various listening environments in the real world. And translation is really key when you're doing mixes, right? Because however well it sounds in your studio, what's really important is how well it sounds on the speaker systems, earbuds, headphones of the people listening to your music in the real world. Now, for myself, I have to say I've never really done a full mix just on these headphones. They've always been an additional reference which I use in addition to my main speakers over here. But I think they work quite well for that, especially to judge the low end in a mix, because low end is actually quite hard to get accurate in a small home studio like mine. So I trust the low end on these headphones much more, and I found them to work quite well for that. Now, how I use them in Cubase is basically that I put this plugin in the control room, because in the control room you can see that I have several monitor pairs set up, my normal Adam audio speakers, a set of monitors dedicated for when I'm using VSX, and a set of monitors dedicated for when I'm using some other headphones. And if you go to VSX, then you can see that I have the VSX plugin inserted here as a plugin on the outputs. And the advantage of using it like this is, of course, that if you make an export of your mix, this plugin will not be on it, so it will not actually influence the export of your mix. Even though you can also set the plugin to be disabled automatically when you're exporting a mix from your DAW. Now, if you would also like to use these headphones when you're just regularly listening to music on YouTube or on Spotify, for example, there's also a system-wide application looking very much like the plugin, and you can use that to make sure that these profiles are applied even when you're listening outside of your DAW. Now, as for the new features in VSX 5.0, the first one is that they're now using brand new spatial modeling technology, which recreates even better the sound of speakers in a professional room. They mentioned that they've redone everything from the ground up, and that also means that if you've done any kind of setup or selected favorites in the previous version, they will be restored to the defaults when you first install version 5.0, but they will make a backup of your previous defaults, which is basically just a text file which you can see over here, and then you can reapply those manually if you want to in version 5.0. Now, at the same time, it is possible to switch back to the version 4 spatial modeling. In the settings over here, you can see over here that you can still select the old speaker model so that you can, for example, compare it to the new version 5.0 spatial modeling. Now, the big new feature that was teased previously and that basically everybody was waiting for is the so-called ECCO feature, which basically stands for ear canal curve optimization. And this means that you can now use a special procedure to measure your ear canal and apply an ear canal specific EQ curve to the spatial modeling so that you actually hear it the way it was intended. Due to the fact that ear canals are different on every person, you get different frequency resonances in there. So basically everybody experiences these headphones in a different way. They had a couple of different options in previous versions to compensate for that partially. But now you can fully compensate for your ear canal in a very personalized way. So let's have a look at that. So over here you can see the ECCO Cal button, and that comes up with the ECCO calibration. There's 12 steps. Now when you initially start up version 5, it actually starts with this ECCO calibration. But let's go through the steps so you get a bit of an idea of how it works. First of all, you need to select the model number of your headphones. There have been various production runs apparently with slight deviations, so mine is in the 31 range of serial numbers. And you can find that serial number on your headphone band on the right. And the next step is used to then set your volume so that you can comfortably listen to the test. You just play some music. And by the way, this will kind of sound weird for you because this sound is not actually meant for speakers without the headphones on. So whatever you'll hear now, you'll hear it different from what the headphones will actually sound like. And the next step is then that you get a slider here. And the idea is when you start the calibration that you listen to the generated tone and then you push this button and then the generated tone will be slightly higher. And then you're supposed to match the volume of those tones. So basically the procedure is like this. And you basically have to match the volume of those tones, which you can hear without pushing the slider and after pushing the slider, to get a flat frequency curve. Now this will go through a lot of different frequency bands, which progressively get higher in frequency. So frequency band 8 is the last one, which sounds like this. Now after you've calibrated all those 8 bands, you can do some fine tuning over here, which basically presents you with these test tones again, but gradually going through the various frequencies like this. And then again, the volume of all those test tones should be the same. And if that's not the case, you can basically adjust the sliders to make sure that every test tone sounds at the same volume. Now next up, when you hear all the test tones at the same volume, there's a final step in which you can set the amount of echo calibration that is most suitable for you. And they allow you to do that by listening to various music styles and then adjusting the amount of calibration until you basically hear that the sound is balanced, clear and 3D with smooth upper mids and natural vocals. And you get a hip hop track, a rock track and a pop track. So you can do it for all 3 styles or just for one, whatever you prefer. And finally, you can save and finish your profile. As you can see, I already made 2. And that profile will then be used whenever you start up the plugin as the default profile for your ear canal curve. Now, if you want to have a look at that profile, you can do it with the button over here, Echo EQ. And you can see over here how it measured my ear canal, the amount I ended up with. And you can manually make changes over here if you want to. You can also adjust some of these other frequency bands over here if you want to listen to a bit more high-end in general, which is really a taste thing. Or maybe it aligns more with your monitoring setup. Then you can adjust those other EQ points and you can save it again as a separate profile. Now what they also suggest after you've done this echo calibration is that you listen to some of your favorite reference mixes and see how they sound with the 5.0 modeling and the custom ear canal curve. And then you can, for example, adjust the echo amount to more or less to make sure that you hear your references exactly in the way that you're used to and in the way that you prefer. Now, before we check out some of the other features, if you like this video or find it useful at all, please give it a big thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm so that it gets shown to more people. Subscribe to the channel and ring the little bell icon so you get notified when I post another video. For even more support, you can use the super thanks button below the video, which is kind of a virtual tip jar, or if you're planning to buy anything at one of these online stores anyway, I have affiliate links for them in the description below. And if possible, I will also try to add specific affiliate links for Slate's VSX. And if you click the affiliate link to the appropriate store and then make a purchase, I will get a small commission on whatever you buy without any additional cost to you, which greatly helps out the channel and is very, very much appreciated. But let's get back to Slate VSX 5.0. Now, another feature that they have is the so-called human linear headphone response, which provides the sound of perfectly accurate speakers without the room response or crosstalk. You can find it as one of the rooms over here, human linear. And due to the absence of crosstalk, to me it sounds more like other headphones, where you hear the mid-channel more right inside your head. And the stereo information is really coming from the right or the left side. That's very clear to me. But I think it's a nice new variant to have. And by the way, this is also the model that they now switch to if you bypass the plugin over here. It says your selected linear emulation is now active for improved referencing. And that selected linear emulation is something that you can set over here. Bypass mode HD linear. You can now set it to one of the previous two or the new human linear headphone response. Now there are some other small changes in 5.0. which are also quite useful. For example, one thing is that when you're adjusting a knob over here, you can now see the actual value on top, and that's available for all the knobs that are in the user interface now. You have the ability to store more favorites. There's a bank 2 here for favorites. So you can now store up to 10 favorites instead of 5. And when you browse rooms, there's now also the list mode, which allows you to immediately switch between the various rooms and also the various speakers in that room, by either pushing a line over here or maybe just pushing a speaker system, and then you immediately switch to that room, including the other speaker system. Quite useful. And those are the most important changes in Slate VSX 5.0. If you already owned the Platinum edition of Slate VSX, this update is free for you. If you had one of the lower editions, I think the Essentials edition for example, then there's an upgrade price which you should be able to find in your Slate account. And I think there's an upgrade price per room in that case. Now, if you don't have Slate VSX yet, they're also providing a special introductory offer price until the end of June. So if you always wanted to buy this system, now might be a good time. Now, my experience with Slate VSX in general and version 5.0 specifically, I have to say I like it. Definitely as an additional reference, especially for the low end. I've been using it in the last year and I think that really works. A full mix I haven't done on it yet, but I really should, because I'm very curious how that mix would turn out and how it would be different from the way I usually do my mixes with speakers combined with a couple of different headphones. Now, as for the difference between other headphones and Slate VSX, it's great to have that room modeling. I know there are other plugins out there as well, which can provide this for any headphones, but it's nice to have this integrated system in which all components are basically tuned and made for each other, so that you know you can all have the same experience. Now, as for the differences between version 4.0 and 5.0, initially, after installing 5.0 and doing the ECCO calibration, I did not feel that the sound was suddenly earth-shatteringly different, but then I was just going from memory how 4.0 sounded. But then when I actually started switching the model in the plugin, going between 4.0 and 5.0, yeah, I really like 5.0 much better. I feel there are less harsh frequencies in there now, maybe also due to the calibration. And I found more of the rooms actually suitable to use for mixing, because previously in 4.0 I really only used one room in there, which was the midfields on the Archon room, which definitely sounded most like my speakers, and the other rooms I really found less suitable. But if I now switch to the other rooms in 5.0, I find they are much more agreeable to listen to and could also be useful as a reference when I'm mixing my tracks. Now, about the echo calibration, when I initially did it, the results sounded a bit dark to me. Personally, I also did not find it so easy to match the volume of the various frequencies, because basically if the test tone goes up to the higher frequencies, yeah, there's just less energy in it. So I felt I could not always easily match the volumes of those tones. But after having done it a second time, the results were much better, and I'm much more satisfied with my personalized ear canal curve. Now, in general, I'm quite happy with this update, especially because I owned the Platinum edition and it's free for me. But I do feel that the sound quality is better and the system has become even more useful for me. Now, if you want to hear some opinions of other real-world users, there's a great discussion on the Gearspace forums. I'll put a link in the description below. And Steven Slate is even personally answering and commenting on some of the remarks that people have or questions that they're left with. I found it to be very informational reading through that and even getting much more info and a detailed background about the changes that are in this 5.0 version. Now let me know what your experiences are with the Slate VSX system in general and version 5.0 specifically, if you're already using it. I'm very interested, and if you have any tips, let us know as well. Now, if you don't have the Slate VSX system but have some other headphones that you would like to use for mixing, I have a separate video on how I set up my headphones for mixing, which I will link over here. Check it out, enjoy, and see you soon.